Look, I got to be honest with you. Sometimes I've hit the accelerator instead of the brake, or the brake instead of the accelerator. Certainly.
Do you really?
Yeah,
I have never done that.
You've never done it?
No.
Have you ever done it, Phil?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
you've hit the gas instead of the brake?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, you guys are getting dementia or something. I've never done that.
Well, look, Barry, all we can say
done that.
is your time's going to come. It's not that we've ever, we've caught ourselves, oops, I made a mistake.
That's right.
You hit the brake or
You're driving around in that big camper and you don't know whether you're hitting the brake or the gas. I'm staying away from you.
Oh, okay. Well, that's certainly you better. But Alex, he got himself in a little torqued kind of composure.
Yeah.
Or lack thereof.
Yeah.
And he says, you know what? We've got to start getting to the point now where folks I have to, that are seniors, they need to be tested twice a year, every 6 months, a driver's test.
Yep.
So I said, Alex, at what age are you going to start something like that? He said 75.
75?
75. So, Phil, you're the closest to 75 here.
Thanks a lot.
I thought I'd throw you under the bus before you had a chance.
Yeah.
What's your thought on that?
Well, are there more accidents that young people are in? Are more accidents involving young drivers, yes or no?
Statistically,
so, yes.
Absolutely yes. Numbers, yes.
Your Honor,
percentage, yes.
I present my case.
Right,
That's
and what I've read recently,
That's
too,
it.
is
Your
that
Honor,
most of these
that's
accidents are distracted accidents, and they're being caused by men and not women. Young men, not women. Most people would just make this crazy assumption. The women, you always, right, she's grabbing on her cell phone. But according to statistics, more men are causing these types of accidents, distracted driving accidents, and they're young men, and they're on their cell phones, and they're texting and things like that.
That obviously is a problem.
Well,
so
it
I
is
think
a
we
problem.
should start texting these young guys twice a year, right? Leave the old folks alone.
Well, here's the problem with that. You can't come up with a
like
test
that.
for stupid.
Yeah.
You can't come up with a test for stupid. You test these guys, and they're going to pass the test. It's what the young people are doing when seemingly there's nobody looking at them. However, when we start testing folks that are 75 and older, you can get an idea of how their cognitive skills are.
I understand that. But in the meanwhile, younger drivers cause far more accidents. So now argue to me that you're going to now make life worse and tougher for me because of my age than when I present you the facts that younger drivers, Brian, cause far more, a lot more accidents.
I did.
Look,
Because you can't do anything about what the younger drivers are doing. They're being daredevils.
Right,
You
but
mean you
if
can't do
we're talking
anything about what
seniors,
they're doing? Of course you can.
You can't. Well, you're not going to test them.
We're talking about an 84-year-old woman who stepped on the accelerator thinking she was stepping on the brakes. And so immediately everybody says, oh, we got to get the old folks off the road. They're going to kill each other. They're going to cause accidents and so on and so forth.
I don't want to get them off the
All
road.
right, well, first of all, how often does this happen?
Exactly.
Second of all, maybe what we need to be doing rather than just yanking somebody off the road because they reach a certain age, maybe we need to start talking to folks in a more coherent manner and explaining to them that the day is going to come when you have to give up your keys and recognize when that day is coming and maybe do a little bit more in that area. I'll tell you what, when the day comes for me to give up my keys, I'm not going to argue with the kids. I'm going to say, okay, fine. You think I'm driving like a nut here, take my keys. The other problem is we need alternatives. It's one thing to say to an 84-year-old woman, we're going to take your keys or you should give up your car. But it's another thing, how does this woman now get to the supermarket? How does this woman now get to her doctor's appointments? How does this woman now get to the various things that she's got to do? Because it's one thing for the kids to say that, but if nobody is there to offer an alternative to her driving, or we don't have a public bus system that is, that coincides with her needs, she's got no choice many times than to drive.
Yeah. What do the politicians on Beacon Hill think about this?
I have no idea. And
Well,
this
it'll be interesting to find out what
just one person.
Yeah,
over
I
it,
know that. But it'll be interesting to find out what our politicians think about this, first of all, and whether or not they would be in favor of something like I don't know, punishment for people who cross a certain age. I don't know.
Well, don't we already have testing for folks that reach a certain age?
Let me tell you, between you, me, and Barry, there are more blind people out there driving. They're squinting. They can't see the signs. Don't tell me that now we're going to pick on some older person because she stepped on the gas instead of the brake. You know what? I mean, I can tell you, there are too many people, especially who drive at night. It's almost like they're blinded. All those lights are blinding. Those are the people that ought to take a second thought about, driving at night or having restricted licenses. I don't know what the doctors would say. Maybe the doctors can get involved here. If they feel
are.
As though, okay, if the doctor thinks that you're physically, just not capable of driving, then of course, they send that to the registry. But there are more people who are on the road right now, in my estimation, who ought not to be because of their eyesight alone.
Well, then they should have that tested.
Well, I think
they should,
Phil's got a good idea here. I think you're onto something there. I think maybe because, folks tend to go to the doctor annually anyway for a checkup or whatever, but the old folks that I know spend a lot of time at the doctor's office, and I'll tell you what, I'm getting to be one of them, right? I get to know, all the nurses know me now by name when I walk in. How you doing? How's the kids? And everything, because you get to see them so much. And I know my in-laws, both in their 80s, one's 87, one's 86, they spend a lot of time at the doctor's, and that's part of the reason why they still drive. But maybe Phil's onto something. Maybe the doctor should have an evaluation every 6 months to determine whether or not they feel that you're still capable of driving, and maybe have that discussion with you, and then have to send in some kind of recommendation to the registry.
Now, let's now look at the registry, okay? Barry, in this state, how often do you get, Brian? How long does a license
5 years.
last? 5 years. So let's say once you pass, 80, that 5-year term is cut down to every 2 years, all right? And this way you renew your license every 2 years at a discounted price.
But should you have a doctor's note?
I don't know. I'm looking at it from a legal point of view. Should the registry start thinking about, and the legislature, asking people 80 and up not to have a 5-year license, but rather a 2-year license, and every 2 years those licenses would be renewed at a discounted price based on their ability of whether or not they can see and drive,
A lot can happen between 80 and 82.
Well, it can, but your point about a discounted price, you pay $50 for 5 years, so $20 for 2 years, and the doctor's note has to clear you. Certainly people that drive for a living, they have to go through many tests in order to be able to drive.
Yeah.
I don't see why that would be a problem for folks of a particular age.
Are there laws right now that say truck drivers cannot drive after the age of X?
No.
Then wait a minute then. Okay, well then we ought to take a look at that. Why? Why? You're telling me if I'm a truck driver, a professional driver, I can drive a cab or a truck?
Every year you're taking a test.
Okay. Every year you're taking a
Yes.
test. All right. That I didn't know.
You have to,
Every
the
year
doctor
you are?
test, yes, you have to.
All right.
So you think
have to be
folks over
cleared.
75 and older should have to go on a road test every year? I mean, that's...
No,
Well,
every
how else
2
do you
years.
tell the cognitive skills?
Every 2 years, you know what? Because a lot happens once you get beyond 80. A lot can happen. So, but at a discounted price. Now, I don't know how much longer our licenses are going to cost what they cost now, but you can rest assured with the pay increases that they just got, we're going to get a hike in.
Had to get that in there somewhere.
I knew he did. You know he did.
Your license is costing you more next year.
To go back to one of Barry's points about
And your
how
inspections, too.
how folks are going to be able to get around. I know 5 years is a little bit down the road, but in 5 years, we're going to have those driverless cars out on the road. Now, I'm not suggesting that every senior go out and buy one, but that could be you trade in one car and you get another one that's going to drive you from point A to point B.
And then you get in the damn thing and forget where you're going.
Well, that could be. That could
Where
be.
was I going when I got into this thing anyway?
I programmed it.
How many of you have lost your cars in the parking lot? Don't tell me.
All the time.
All
Now
the
that
time.
I do.
Yeah.
I don't step on the gas instead of the brake, but I lose my car all the time.
Right,
yeah,
right,
absolutely.
So we all have done something right. Look, this guy here falls asleep every once in a while.
Driving?
That's pretty bad. Yes. You don't know about those stories?
Yeah,
Well,
I
you're
do.
in
Yeah.
tough shape.
Yeah, he
You're
is.
stepping on the gas instead of the brake. You're falling asleep while you're driving. I hope the registry's listening right now. His name is Thomas, Brian Thomas.
Gee, thanks.
You know, one thing we haven't talked about with this is that, when the doctors, get involved in all that, what about family members? Mm-hmm. Those are the people who know you and me best. Those are the ones who ought to step forward and say, listen, I know my dad. I love my dad, but, man, he's just not going to, take a look at his driving. The kids, the people who are close to, the drivers, the elderly drivers, those are the ones who ought to tell authorities, I know him, I live with him, I love him, but I don't want to see
Well,
him
I think
get
there needs to be
in
more
an
discussions
accident.
within families, too, about this.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
Because it's difficult to face your mortality and say, I can't drive anymore, I can't do this anymore, I can't do that anymore. So I think there needs to be more family intervention and more discussions about
Yeah,
this. And, just
exactly.
got to sit around and...
Family members are afraid to do that kind of stuff.
Well, don't wait until the person turns 107.
No.
it
Do you
when
want
you're-
them to get involved in a car accident?
No.
No, I'm telling you, family members are afraid to broach that type
So
of
you,
subject.
you counter that with, would you rather see a car accident with a loved one? And if the answer is no, then you have to go back and say, okay, then talk about it.
Yeah.